Steven Gerrard will not be the next Rangers manager.
I don't think we can describe it as breaking news now, Dan.
Not now. Since
maybe 24 hours ago.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. As I said, I don't know. Did I give off the vibe? I think I did. That previously, I just wasn't sure about Gerrard, and I know that I mentioned it previously in the summer when there was all this chat. There was people telling us all the press conferences booked for 3:00 tomorrow, and security's coming. And I said, look, we've been here, and I think the Rangers fans should remember that and factor that into how they're feeling right now, because once again it was being kind of held up as a fait accompli. I never felt that it was that. Actually, the more you look at it, you wonder if by coming to Great Britain, returning to Great Britain to fly into Heathrow, it was almost more of a courtesy visit. I am entirely sure that he wanted to hear what they had to say, but I would kind of revert to what we were saying last week, Daniel. Steven Gerrard wasn't coming for an interview, not to be interviewed. He was coming to interview them.
Yeah.
And it was entirely dependent upon what sort of answers he got, and there was also, and I referred to this from day one, that the financial and family kind of issues that prevented him from wanting to be considered a serious candidate in the summer haven't changed. So they were still there. So was there a way that they were going to suddenly shift? I found that unlikely. But I think it centres around, and this is where it's going to get really dangerous now for Andrew Kavanaugh, because I think his credibility could be, absolutely blown apart here if he's not really careful with the decisions he makes and the people that he listens to over the next wee while, because it's starting to look, to all intents and purposes, as if he's nailing his colours to Kevin Thelwell's mast. And everything that you're hearing about how the conversation went with Gerrard would lead you to believe that Kavanagh wasn't in a place or a position where he felt he wanted to sacrifice Thelwell to get Gerrard in. In other words, he was backing Thelwell over Steven Gerrard, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, he's got a monumental credibility problem with Rangers support. They've made up their mind about Kevin Thelwell. As I said last week, Kevin Thelwell is not part of the solution. He's a major part of the problem. And if Rangers are going to stick stubbornly to this kind of management structure that they've put in place, if the guy that was previously the manager, the first team manager, was asked to take the job but in different terms, you're a head coach this time, you're answerable to Kevin Thelwell, and he'll, by the way, he'll be in charge of what players you get into Auchenhowie. If that's the decision that the Americans are making here, then what's the phrase I've said all along, Daniel? This will get worse before it gets better.
Yep.
By saying that, I thought they need to get used to the environment. They need to understand it. They need to make mistakes in order to learn from them. What they can't do is make mistakes and then make the same mistakes over and over again. This felt to me like a point where, yes, mistakes have been made, so you correct those mistakes, and then you move on. You've got a sort of blank canvas again. They don't have a blank canvas. They've got a canvas that's got Kevin Thelwell's thumbprints all over it. And now they're moving on to a guy that Kevin Thelwell targeted in the summer, but didn't think was as good as Russell Martin, clearly, because he didn't move for him.
Yeah. So
this is a guy that Kevin Thelwell would have to admit he fancies even less than Russell Martin, but he's emerging as the front runner. By the way, a guy who's been a manager for less than 2 full seasons, and his only full season as being a manager, he came 12th in the English Championship. And I know there's all sorts of reasons around the problems that Sheffield Wednesday have had over the period in terms of ownership and all that. But that is the CV. That's what he is in the running for the Rangers job. A 12th place finish in England's Championship. Is somebody having a laugh? Because I'm telling you now, the Rangers support, they were almost prepared to give Russell Martin a chance, even though they had their deep suspicions that it was going to turn out exactly as it did. But I think because Andrew Kavanaugh had just come in, there was a whole new regime. I think there was a willingness to, okay, let's see how this works out. That willingness and goodwill is not going to be there for Danny Rohl, if that's what it is, and it's another Kevin Thirlwell appointment. There will be no wriggle room. He will start even more under the cosh than Russell Martin was. And it looks to be heading only in one direction. And let me tell you, it's not a healthy direction. And the problem that Andrew Kavanaugh has is I think the Rangers supporters want to believe in him and want to believe in his changes. And he almost took ownership of the whole thing, didn't he? With the open letter, yeah, me and Paraga, we're going to head this up. We'll take personal responsibility. And the first thing that he do is arrange chat with Stephen Gerrard, get him to fly to London. And Rangers support at that point, I think we're looking at going, right, this is real leadership, right? They understand now, they get it. And then they can't get Gerrard over the line. Is that because they think Thirlwell's more important to the operation? And then ultimately, having let that one collapse, they've then turned back to Kevin Thirlwell and said, right, what's your list? Who's on that? All right, Danny Rohl from the last time. This is, I mean, in terms of PR, the optics around this are a spectacular car crash. Incredible stuff.